And you could just say quietly to your girlfriends, oh, what's she wearing? Oh, did she not look in the mirror before she left the house? But what you're not realising is your child heard you. And your child now thinks it's okay to say something like that to a complete stranger.
Really? Welcome everybody to Parent with Purpose. We are back today and we're going to be talking about a subject that's near and dear to a lot of our hearts, either from things that happened to us when we were growing up, or they could even be currently happening to us. And chances are they might be happening to your kids right now. We're talking to Joanne from across the pond. Joanne is from England. Hello, Joanne. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
So walk me through your story and the bullying that actually happened with you.
It's a long one, but to condense it down, it started in middle school. I was different from everybody else. Everybody else was listening to rap, hip-hop, R&B, and I was the emo kid with black hair sitting in the corner listening to heavy metal. So obviously I got judged and I got picked on because I was different. I did not fit in with everyone else. And it started off with just some silly little name calling, emo kid, goth kid, go sit in the corner in your little dark hole and stay there, and silly things like that. And that then progressed into this is when the stereotype for emos became that all emos were self-harmers and they would cut themselves. So I'd be told to go sit in the corner and slit my wrists and things like that. Then I entered high school, and when I entered high school, MSN, Messenger and MySpace had just come around. Thankfully back then it was a lot harder to contact people that weren't on your friends list via those means. I did get a few sort of experiences with cyberbullying through those platforms, but nowhere near as much as kids experience now with Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat and all these various social media platforms. But eventually, towards the end of my high school career, things got physical. Just for one example, I'd had a car accident where I'd lost use of my left leg for quite a while. So I was on crutches. And I was just walking down the hall to get to my next lesson, minding my own business. And one of the bullies decided it would be funny just to yank the crutches out from underneath me and stand there laughing at me as I fell to the floor, and I was in tears because of I was in a lot of pain. And that then led me to some pretty dark places. It led me to fail school. I failed high school miserably because I stopped attending lessons. I spent the bulk of my days hiding in the medical room, finding any excuse to say I needed to go to the medical room, playing on conditions like asthma, and just to kind of get me there. But that then led to depression and anxiety, and then that got worse, which then led to suicide attempts. So it got pretty dark for me.
And what was your saving grace? How did you pull yourself out of that? Because you're here, obviously, so you found a way around that. How did you do that?
There was a friend. Outside of school, I attended music lessons with a really lovely lady. She was part of my help as well, but the biggest help was one of her other students. He was the same age as me, a few months older, and we had very similar tastes. We met when he was doing a concert at an old people's home. And we just got talking and laughing, and it turned out that we had some very similar interests. He liked the heavy music like I did. He liked the baggy clothes and the black hair and the floppy hair, and he liked the anime and the gaming like I did. We just found out that we had a lot of common ground. So from then, my music teacher decided to get him in on some of my lessons and me in on some of his lessons, because she could see that we got on really well. And she knew at that point I needed a friend that wasn't an adult, that was from outside of everything that was going on. So she helped me form that relationship. And he was the one person, when I had everybody telling me that I was worthless, he was the one making me believe that I was worth something.
So you have a daughter who is now experiencing some bullying. Is it just face to face, or is it cyber as well?
I know how easy cyberbullying is, and I also know that behind cyberbullying, people can hide. So if you're experiencing cyberbullying, for all you know, it could be your neighbour next door doing it. But because it's all behind a computer, you can't prove that, because fake profiles, fake pictures, things like that, all too common. So I try to avoid letting her on to any platform that would open her up to that situation. So it is mostly face-to-face for her.
So how are you handling the face-to-face bullying that's happening with her now?
Well, I wouldn't say handling. It's a roller coaster, because one minute you just kind of want to go mama bear, and you just kind of want to go Hulk mode and just kind of go in and just like rip everything up and be like, ah, but you can't. But then there are other days where you just feel so heartbroken for your kids. You just sat there and, what am I supposed to do? You don't know how to fix it. You know you can't make them feel better. You know that no matter what you do, what you say, you can't fix it per se. You can't make the pain that they feel just disappear. I think the most vital thing that I've learned is the more I know her as a child, as a person, the better I can help her.
In what way?
Every child's different. Mm-hmm. I mean, I grew up with 3 other siblings, and I can assure you that out of the 4 of us, none of us have very much in common at all. We're all completely different people. Mm-hmm. I was the second born, who was sort of like a rebel who liked to push boundaries. My sister, who was the oldest, was the goody two shoes who got straight A's, and so we're all very different. So I learned very young that all children are different. What makes one tick won't make another one tick. So getting to know my daughter for who she is as a person, mm-hmm. has become quite vital in helping her through. You can read the handbooks, you can read this information and that information, but ultimately what's going to work and help your child is down to your child as a person.
And you as a parent.
Exactly.
Because we are all uniquely different as parents as well.
Oh, yes.
So what is it you are advising parents do when they discover that their child is being bullied, especially at schools? What do you suggest a parent do?
I think the first step is obviously recognizing that your child is being bullied. A child is very rarely going to come out and say to you, I'm being bullied. It's so rare that a child will just outright admit it. So I think it's very fundamental that you pay attention to the very small things. Because if you don't pay attention to the small things, you're going to miss the larger things. So watch for the small mood changes, watch for the little swings, watch for the little things that they're doing different, a drop in grades, a more erratic attitude, more bad behaviour on the child's part. That comes across very much as if they're acting out.
Lack of appetite?
Lack of appetite can also be another one. Showing more anger, or showing more distress, more easily upset. There's so many signs. It's all down to your child what they will portray. Mm-hmm. Once you have discovered that this is the reason, you've got to give them time to come to you. They're not just going to tell you on the spot, even if you do notice these things. You've got to give them time. And you do need to set that maybe they won't speak to you, but maybe they'll speak to nanny, they'll speak to grandpa, they'll speak to auntie. So rally their support. And eventually once you can confirm that this bullying is happening, I think as much as you do want to go mama bear and you do just want to go out and scream and rip into whoever's hurting your baby, you need to step back and realise you have got to do whatever it takes to make it better for your kid. And going in all guns blazing, ready to rip everything to shreds is not going to help. Obviously, how people go about it is different. Usually a parent's first point of call, if it's bullying within school, would be to go to the teachers. But some parents recognise that sometimes that makes it worse, because the bullies will see that the parent's gone in and they go, "You told your mum," ooh, things like that. So sometimes a quiet meeting with the principal, sometimes not going to the school, it is the best thing you can do to your child, because if the child feels like the bullies know that you've gone in, they then develop this fear of going into school, knowing it's going to become worse. So you can seek help from your friends, from your family. There are charities and support lines, or hotlines, as I know people in the States call it, that you can contact to seek advice from. None of us ever really know what to do in a situation like this. And as I said, you can read all the information out there is. You can read all the advice, but it's so much different when you actually speak to somebody. So seek advice and seek help, not just for your child, but for you as well.
Would you suggest, if you could do so quietly, to try to find one or two teachers in the school ground that would keep an eye? Or
I would strongly suggest, if that is an option, to do so. I mean, I do get the mentality why some people would not want to go to the school, but if there is at least one teacher that can just keep an eye from a distance, they can confirm what's happening, and they can work quietly with other teachers to protect your child.
So you were suggesting help for parents as well. So for parents and children, are you suggesting counseling? Is that what you mean by getting help, or?
Not necessarily counseling. For some children, counseling is what they need. It is what will help them work through what's going on in their lives where they're being bullied. But counselling is not always the answer. For some, it's the worst thing you could do. Another option would be, like me, having an outside of school activity, something that is separate from family, that is separate from friends, that is separate from you as their parent, where they can go and make new friends that have nothing to do with anything they're going through, where they can connect with someone and this person doesn't know what names they're being called. They don't know what awful things have been said, or what good they've done or what bad they've done. They just see, a shiny new friend that they want to get to know and they want to play with. And regardless of what route you take to help your kid, make sure they have that one friend, because that one friend will save their life.
So do you believe that bullies are a byproduct of parenting, or do you think it's just genetic, or do you think it's just a byproduct of social, what they're seeing out there? Like, what creates a bully?
It's really hard to say, but I think there is so many different reasons why a bully is created. It could be a product of parenting, not necessarily intentional. Like, for example, we need to realize our children are sponges and they absorb everything as they're growing up. So you could be having a coffee date with your girlfriends and your kids down the coffee shop, and you could see a woman who's, should we say, dressed not so fashionably, and you could just say quietly to your girlfriends, "Oh, what's she wearing? Oh, did she not look in the mirror before she left the house?" But what you're not realizing is your child heard you, and your child now thinks it's okay to say something like that to a complete stranger. So sometimes bullying can be a product of parenting, intentionally or even non-intentionally. We need to be very careful with the things we do and say around our children. Sometimes they're a product of their environment. So it's not necessarily the parents, it's the environment that they've grown up in. Some have grown up without parents. Some have only grown up with one parent. Some have grown up with an abusive parent. Some have grown up with a parent struggling with addiction. So it's not necessarily the parents have been bullies, whether it's intentional or unintentional. It's just the environment. And bullying is their way to vent off how they're feeling, because they weren't taught how to deal with those strong emotions. Sometimes they're a product of society. They fall into the wrong group. They fall into a group with bullies and they become a bully because they made friends with bullies.
So you brought up a very good point. How do you keep your child away from becoming friends with people who are bullies?
Unfortunately, you can't. there's no, well, from what I know personally, there is no assured way to know they're not going to make friends with bullies. Unfortunately, in a school environment, they're going to make friends with whoever they're going to make friends with. And especially as they get to the older schools, they're going to feel pressure to be popular. They're going to feel pressure to have certain friends and a certain type of friends and be a certain person. You can do for your children is teach them the right kind of friends to make. Teach them the difference between a friend who is a real friend and a friend who's just using them for what they can get out of you. Teach them a difference between a friend who will be there to support you through the good times and the bad, and a friend that will only be there for the good. That is the only way we can prevent our children falling into that sort of crowd, but unfortunately we can't guarantee it will stop.
That is true. Very true. Joanne, I want to thank you. You've given us some very, very helpful advice. So I'm going to recap real quickly. Number one, we need to really get to know our children. We need to be able to discern when there's something wrong because they're acting slightly different. So our job as a parent is to get to know them so we know when they're not acting typically how they normally would, so we can help understand that there might be a problem. It might not be bullying, it might be something else, but today it's about bullying. Number two, we want to be able to let them know that they've got a support group behind them with parents, grandparents, family members. We want to also try to make sure we have support as the parent because we're going to need it as well. And lastly, we really want to try to make sure our kids have the opportunity to have a variety of friends outside of school, or so that they have hopefully the opportunity to connect like you did with that one person who saved your life. That pretty much wraps it up. Yeah.
That pretty much does.
That's awesome. Okay. You know what? I know a lot of us have either been bullied ourselves as children and or have our children are being bullied right now, and we're dealing with that. It's always going to be in our society, and it's something we're always going to have to do. That we're always going to have to figure out how to stop it and or learn to cope with it. Those are your two options, and I'm not sure that those are always viable options, and you have to decide for yourself which way you kind of want to go with this. But Joanne is somebody who's been there and done that and has lived through it and is currently living through it right now with her daughter. I've been there, and I've been helping my children go through that. So there are a lot of people out there that are suffering and dealing with the same thing you are right now. You're not alone. We need you to know that. But we are also a community of people who want to help. So if you are going through any of this and you have any questions for Joanne or for myself, please come on over to the website, parentwithpurpose.ca, and actually comment in there, because then I'll be able to redirect it to either Joanne or to whoever. And sometimes just knowing that you've got somebody you can talk to, as Joanne did when she was a young person, that saved her life. And so it might help you as well. That's what we're here for. Joanne, thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And as always, we want to wish you an awesome day.